it's not about that. It's about convincing American
What are we
consumers
gonna
to
send
buy
to
our
them?
products. So a tariff is convincing our consumers to purchase American by
They
making
export
for
diamonds.
can I just finish?
Let her
God,
finish.
holy shit.
Got you, buddy.
So
I got you, buddy.
so what don't unalive over there, Julio. What tariffs do is they make foreign products become somewhat expensive so that people are more inclined to purchase American made products versus products that are being imported into our country at much cheaper rates. They flood out our markets, then our businesses start hurting when we're not selling products to our own consumers.
Yep.
Millie, they export diamonds. We don't really make too many diamonds in America. Do you think our diamond industry is like
We actually
hurting right
do.
now? I mean,
We make
not to the
artificial
degree.
diamonds.
Well,
Let
we
him,
don't.
let him
Okay, but
finish,
real,
guys. Let
real
him
diamonds.
let Tariffs finish.
Well,
I'm
we
talking about
just
real diamonds.
well, we
Like
don't
we don't have an abundance of real diamonds
Tony,
in
30
America
minutes.
that
It's
we
the
need to
last 30
balance out
minutes,
this
but it depends what you're
deficit.
trying to use it on.
It's also harder for us to mine diamonds because we don't use kids
Yeah.
and slaves like Lesotho does.
And I'd like to point out, I think there is an incredibly broad discussion to be had about the validity and the strategy of tariffs. I would like to just realign, though, that my argument was that the reciprocal tariffs board, the infographic, is dishonest. There is a column that says tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers and fine print. And that is not in the calculation at all. The calculation is strictly the trade deficit divided by the total exports. There are no tariffs.
Including the VAT tax?
What?
No.
Are you including the VAT tax? Do you know what VAT tax is?
No, I don't. I just know it's not included, but please inform me.
VAT tax.
Yeah, so a VAT tax is a tax at every stage of production, not just imports. So like producing, manufacturing, like all of the above, distribution, and they get taxed every time that they do that for each product. So like by the time it does get pushed to us, right, it's been overtaxed. And there's only a few countries in the world that do not have a VAT tax. It's the United States, Greenland, 3 countries in Africa, the Middle East, and 1 country in Asia. The rest of the world has a VAT tax. So producer, manufacturer, distributor, retailer, and then to the consumer. It's a tax at literally every stage of production.
Wow, look at this. Do you know what this means?
Okay, so the value of total imports or the value of total exports, is the VAT tax included in that figure? Or is that a different thing?
What I'm looking at with Donald Trump's proclamation as to the tariffs itself, he includes the fact that the VAT tax is included in what he's talking about.
Is that part of the total exports or total imports?
What we're looking at, the picture that he put out on Truth Social, are you talking about the tariffs charged to the U.S., including currency manipulation and trade barriers?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So the VAT tax is included in that.
Because tariffs are going to make us rich as hell.
Okay, so the formula is quite literally the total imports minus the total exports divided by the total exports. That is the math. That math, if you do that math, you get exactly the numbers on the board.
Who are you getting that from?
This is on the USTR Office of the United States Trade Representative.gov reciprocal tariffs calculations.
Okay, and they're saying that they did that in response to what Donald Trump is showing?
Yes, they say that this was the calculation for what he showed.
Okay,
there are 2 constants in the denominator, but they multiply to equal 1, and so they basically don't exist.
It's all a fugazi. You know what a fugazi is?
Well, hold on. Those taxes do exist on our shit, and I can show it with the WTO.
No, I'm sure, but I'm saying my argument is that those taxes are not part of that column. That column is strictly the total exports minus the total imports divided by the total exports. It's the trade deficit ratio.
So, Office of the United States Trade Representative, what's the title?
Reciprocal tariff calculations. You can scroll down to the formula and under basic approach and then parameter selection.
Yeah,
Sounds like
I think like
Mar-a-Lago.
they can use this to determine like an idea of what you would put a reciprocal tariff on, but you can actually set a reciprocal tariff to whatever you feel like setting it to. It doesn't have to be like absolutely
Right.
Kind of-
specific to this
Hey,
formulation.
hey, hold on, guys. I'm so
guys.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Big shout out to, I think it was Harold, paid for 5 subscriptions for 5 people. All 5 of you. Enjoy the stickers. Fucking big dogs, bro. Appreciate that. For real. That was fire.
It kind of sounds like
That's
I
cool.
kind of sounds It kind of sounds like Mar-a-Lago math to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could loosely inform like an economic strategy. You might want to add like, adjustment for population and stuff. But again, my argument is that the math on his Truth Social, on the board that he held up for the press release, that column says tariffs charged to the USA, and the math provided here does not include tariffs charged to the USA. That information in that column is plain inaccurate. It is wrong. It's a lie, probably.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
You're making a probability of it being a lie, right? You can set a reciprocal tariff to whatever you want to. It doesn't have to be based off of this formulation, right? This is a recommended formulation. So I'm just going to read it for everybody.
Yep. And
consider an environment. Hold on, can I read this real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll allow it.
Consider an environment in which the U.S. levies a tariff on a rate, TI, on country I and T reflects the change of the tariff rate. Let O represent the elasticity of imports with respect to import prices. Okay, so you also left out import prices in regards to that. Let represent
the denominators. There's 2 constants.
Okay, let the represent pass through from tariff to import prices. Let MI represent total decrease in imports due to the change in tariffs equals, basically your equation, assuming the offsetting exchange rate, right? So it's assuming offsetting exchange rate and general equilibrium effects are small enough to be ignored. The reciprocal tariff that results in a bilateral trade balance of 0 satisfies.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be specific to this equation. You understand, right?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Which part of this equation involves tariffs charged to the USA?
Hey, just a reminder to Jake, Taco, and Buddha. You guys can feel free to pitch in at any time now.
Which one of these variables? Because we said M sub I represents total imports, X sub I represents total exports, and M sub I in the denominator also total imports. The trade elasticity and the other
represents total
value?
imports from country.
Okay. So what is that?
So the PO at the beginning, right? So E times P times MI, right? So you have P being represent the pass through from tariffs to import prices. That would be on our country. Okay.
I don't see a P.
And then let MI represent total imports from country. Well, it looks like a P.
It's like a little circle with a vertical line through it, phi.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's the elasticity of imports with respect to import prices, right? Then the pass-through of tariff to import prices, and then the final one is the represent of total imports from country.
Yep. Okay. So this is going to sound like a smart ass question. I promise it's not. What is 4 times 0.25?
Why are we doing like math equations right now?
America, explain. What do you
promise there's a point. What is 4 times 0.25?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but
Okay.
you're welcome to answer it for me.
It's just 1. It's 4 times 1/4 equals 1, right? So they have this pretty fancy looking equation with epsilon and phi in the denominator. They say right below it that you multiply those and they equal 1. So you could simplify this and look at it as strictly x sub I minus m sub I over m sub I. That is to say, this calculation is strictly the total exports minus the total imports divided by the total imports. Where are tariffs in that calculation?
Where are they? Where are they?
I literally just pointed it out to you like 3 times now. I'll read it again. Represent the pass-through from tariffs to import prices. Let represent imports from country. So the elasticity of imports in respect to import prices. Okay, import prices is a tariff.
I don't want to like cut you guys short, but if we go on too long about fucking pi
Yeah,
times x times y,
this is getting really annoying. It's just
Fine.
boiling down
Tariffs.
into semantics. What is the issue that you have with tariffs?
My
Like, what's
issue
the
Yeah.
problem?
is that the value is quite literally the exports and the imports, and there is no tariff involved in the calculation. If that rate there, it says Vietnam has a 90% tariff on the U.S., Japan has a 46% tariff. Those are closer to like 5 and 10%, right? I think it is incredibly disingenuous for that column, for his Liberation Day announcement, to say that we're being charged these tariffs when that is not in the math.
Why you always lying?
Okay, so one, it is in the math. I've explained this 3 times now, and it's literally right in front of your face if you just read it. And I've read it 3 times, and you're just choosing not to listen to the fact that tariffs are inside the equation.
Point that you missed.
You missed.
Did I?
Ow! Ow! Ow!
So it's calculated into the equation, whether you like it or not. At the end of the day, you have in exchange the VAT tax, which you weren't aware was occurring throughout the entire world, aside from like 10 countries. So a tax is a tax at every stage of production, not just one, right? And that also gets passed down to us. Yes?
Isn't that included in the final purchase price?
Okay.
Yeah, so we're having additional taxation on distribution, production, and importing, right? So these are excess taxes.
That taxes aren't tariffs.
They're taxes that are added to the product when it's sent over here.
It's what we're going to pay if we purchase it. So say if we buy something from a country that's got an 18% VAT tax, we're going to pay 18% on top of what it originated as. But
triple, well, quadruple actually, because it's taxed at 4 stages. When will you learn? The argument is here, and I don't think you guys are realizing this, like all of these other countries are benefiting off of our consumption. Meanwhile, we have our own labor that's just being exported to other nations, and they're just, instead of paying Americans to do a job and paying Americans livable wages, we're just letting all of these corporations just import from other countries and use their labor instead, and then we're at the same time we're complaining that our wages aren't growing. You can't have it both ways. You have to convince people to come back and actually invest in American manufacturing and grow our manufacturing. Otherwise, by the time AI comes into play, we're going to be completely fucked and living off of the government.
Right.
There's going to be no jobs left for anybody.
Yep. When I look at VAT tax, information about VAT tax, it says that the system prevents double taxation. So why are you saying? I realize, I know, and you don't have to tell me because I've seen it. I know that the tax is added at each stage, but it literally says that the system is designed to prevent double taxation. So quadruple tax.
The oxymoron, like it's a tax at every stage of production. So saying that it's avoiding like a whole ass tax, like they just calculate the full amount of taxes that are paid through every stage and just calculate it into one tax paid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the VAT tax.
Jake, what were you saying, bro? Is it basically that, or?
So it's me. Yeah, no, I was just saying that. Yeah, I mean, it's added at every stage. So, like, that would, I mean, like you just acknowledged that.
Right. But
you said, yeah, I know it is.
It says that it's collected multiple times as the goods move through the production cycle. It says each business pays tax only on the value they add. The final consumer shoulders the entire tax burden, but each business can deduct the tax they've paid on their purchase. The government collects tax incrementally throughout the process. So is that incrementally, as in if it's a 20% VAT tax, it's 20% to this business, and then it's 40% to this one, and then it's 60%, or is it just 20% and it's slowly built up to that 20%? Does that make sense?
Either way, I mean, yeah, but either way, it's still outlined in
right. But
you have the VAT tax,
right.
and then you have the tariff on top of that. So, like, you have whatever the VAT tax is from that country, which most of them are pretty high. Like, if you look at the countries in Europe that have the VAT taxes, they're pretty substantial, right? So, this is how a VAT tax works. So it comes out from the producer, it gets taxed. It comes out from the manufacturer, it gets taxed. It comes out from the distributor, it gets taxed. It comes out from the retailer, it gets taxed, and the consumer pays for that, right? So, like, this is who's paying for it, right? So the manufacturer pays the tax from the producer. Then the distributor pays the tax from the manufacturer. And then the retailer pays the tax from the distributor. And then the consumer pays the tax additionally from the retailer. Right. So it's a shit ton of taxes.
Right, but is it incremental, like, to get to that 20%, or is it 20% every stage?
I believe, I want to say it's about 20% for every stage, but I would have to double check that. But what we're trying to say specifically is when we're importing our goods into their country, then our products have to go through additional VAT taxes that aren't being done in our country when other countries are selling shit into our nation. Does that make sense? Like, right. This is just like a regular.
What this dude had going on here.
All right, I know we all hate math.
It puts our producers at a large
just give me a
disadvantage.
second here. All right, I'd like to revisit this. This is the exact equation that's on the .gov thing that we just talked about, right? We have that. This is the figure that's on his Liberty Day board, right? This is what he says we calculated. It's exports and imports, and then these two fancy elasticity terms that Millie talked about, right? In the document,
tariffs.
They say that these equal.
Wait. Go back.
Yep. They say
that line under there. Elasticity on price up for imports is tariffs.
Yep. Okay. Please let me finish. Okay. So in the document, they say that those terms are 4 and 1/4. What is that? Equals 1. All right. We've got 1 down here. So since this is times 1, all right, is there any difference if I write it this way with the tariff term in it? Or if I write it this way, are these values going to be any different, or are they the exact same? Does anything change?
Where did you get the additional equation from on the right hand side?
So does anything change if you multiply it by 1?
Stop.
Yep.
So go up to the top.
Yep.
Okay. So there's the original equation on the top, right? Where did you get the following equation to the right?
Okay, so my point is, and I'm answering your question.
No, stop.
I'm
Where did you get that equation?
I think he's about to tell us. Millie, he's about to tell us.
Okay, so if you multiply anything by 1, it doesn't change, right? If you take these terms, they equal 1. All right, so this is all 1 times this. So you can take that away. It equals 1. It doesn't matter. If you take these away, this is what you're left with. It's just these numbers, exports and imports. So tell me, if there's no difference in how I write it, how does this include tariffs?
You excluded the tariff specifically, though.
They equal 1. If there's no difference in how I write it, look, all right, here, I'll include it. I'll make it exactly the same.
Where did you get the value of 1 from?
There it is, times 1.
But where did you get the metrics? Like, is this in an executive order?
The 4 and 1/4?
Yeah, where did you get
those are in
metrics?
the same document, the same .gov
Which
page
document?
that we just talked about. The one with the equation that you just had up. My point is, and again, I'm sorry to inflict math on everyone, but my point is that the column on Trump's Liberty
next
Day,
time you're gonna need consent from me before you start doing shit.
Hey, you should have known. You brought up a lab coat.
Yeah, that's true.
Trump's Liberty Day poster, the thing that's on Truth Social, that he says those are tariffs charged to the USA, and then in fine print.
Not seeing 4 and 4.0 on this at all.
Okay.
Well, he said that it's on here. It's not
Yes,
on
you
here.
were just on the reciprocal tariff calculations page, USTR.gov, correct?
Right. Where's the
Okay.
4
In the
4.0?
paragraph underneath the basic approach, it's in the paragraph parameter selection. They say the price elasticity of import demand was set at 4, and then a few sentences later, they say the elasticity of import prices is set to 0.25, which equals 1/4.
Did that include did that include
1/4 times
currency
4.
manipulation and trade barriers?
That's
That's
probably
what
the
I feel
defeat.
like you're leaving out. Like you're leaving out the
There's
actual
more nuance
metrics
to
of
this.
which
It's
this
just
is
not that
being
simple.
like calculated at. Like you're not actually inputting the tariff price. You're just putting like a metric.
No, that's my whole argument, Millie. I'm not inputting the tariff price. It's not in this formula.
I can't see. Bro, you have to get the tariff price from like the WTO and like the rate
No, I
at which
don't.
they're
You
tariffing
have to get
us.
the numbers on the board. This is their formula they use. That's
When you
what I'm
say
trying to
there,
say.
who are you saying?
But you're not using any of the metrics that are set by the tariffs that are in place. You're just using like a basic equation under parameters, right? But not including the actual like numerical values of the tariffs that are being put down.
Yeah, that's what I've been
Like
thinking.
he's just like doing this
how do you
equation
know
without
that
actually putting like the real numbers in it.
Accusations! These are not accusations.
Those are the numbers that
I don't know
the Trump
how.
administration provided as the tariff. That's what they're saying the tariff that they had on us was.
Yeah, and we're denying the premise that what 42 is his formula is basically
It's not
just
my formula.
okay. Where'd you get the formula?
And they're saying that that's the tariff that was on us by those other nations. And so
See, it's Trump's formula apparently, or from my
Well, I
understanding.
want
He got it from the trade representative, United States trade representative, and I'm on their website. All you gotta do is just go into Google, put in reciprocal tariff calculation, and the article will come up.
yeah, but the White House they described their tariffs to include the tariff charged to USA included currency
Hey, we're
manipulation and
about to get a
trade barriers.
rotation here in a minute. Keep typing that screen chat.
Does the trade deficit include currency manipulation and trade barriers? Does the exports minus the imports, does that also include currency manipulation and trade barriers?
I don't know. Did your formula include that? That's what I'm asking.
I don't think that the value
Include any of the numbers.
I just think there's more nuance than what it's just not that simple. And I'm not an economist, but that's just what I've read.
Respect like your reservation. That is my whole concern here. It is quite literally that simple.
And you realize it is that simple.
Yeah, it should
Not
be.
based upon.
Hey, hold on, but 42, you're not putting in any of the metrics. You're not actually putting like the imports versus the exports at all. You're not deducting any of that math whatsoever.
I think he did actually.
No, he literally just took like an example metric that was put in under the parameter selection without actually putting in the actual value of the money that we're getting on imports and exports.
What's a good source? What's a good source that we could pull up to get the figures, like to get the value of exports and imports?
Yeah, we can get
Got
the
you. Hold on,
deficit
Mitch, I got
numbers for you. 1 second.
Got you, Mitch. All right, 60K. Rip this off like a band-aid. Doing this based off the scoreboard solely. Welcoming you, Mitch.
Chime in.
There you go.
Yeah, and this will be useful to like really finally confirm. But I also want to reiterate that we have well established at this point that tariffs are not in the formula.
They are in the formula.
I feel like your confusion is.
You're like glossing over the price elasticity on imports.
So if I think we're on the same page. It's parameter selection. It has the equation. It says the elasticity of import prices with respect to tariffs is 0.25. That's what it literally says. And it says the price elasticity of demand, E, was set at 4. So what he's saying is exactly correct. They multiplied 4 and then divided it by 4 to get 1. So your confusion is correct. They did not include in their tariff calculations anyone's tariffs or anything having to do with tariffs.
Because those values
True.
Because those values multiplied to 1, You can write it the exact same way as though it wasn't there. They have no contribution to the sum. They have no contribution to solving it. You could solve it as though they were never there.
All right, Millie, go ahead. Respond.
Bruh, they're just like taking an analogy that is not actually the equation itself and creating a new equation that leaves out the tariff itself.
Dude, Millie, you are killing me, man. You're so
It's not part of the
stuff.
equation.
It literally says it right under the equation. It says the 4. So I was literally reading it off. Was set at 4. That's this one. And then was set at, where is it? 0.75 or 0.25? Let's see. 0.25. I don't know if you can see it. So see right there, it says that symbol is 0.25. It says that symbol was 4. So when you look at this equation, you just erase those numbers. They equal 1. So what he is saying is exactly correct. When they made this, and this is what's frustrating, is it has nothing to do with any tariffs whatsoever. So the reciprocal tariffs are not reciprocal. They're just the trade deficit. And that's kind of crazy. So I
Or
understand
are
why
they
you're
linear?
concerned and why you think that couldn't possibly be the case, because it's baby math. It's baby economist math. It's an emperor has no clothes moment. This is crazy.
I'm not Goodwill Hunting, but anything times 1, wouldn't that be linear? If you multiply by 1, like if we have the same as them and we equal, it's the same, right?
Yeah. So
is
you
that
can
not linear?
I mean, it's not even linear. It's just equals 1.
It just equals, right? So if we have the same as the other, if we reciprocal, it's the same, right? So wouldn't that be just the same linear?
Like, what's 10 times 1? And I promise that's not a smart-ass question.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's my point.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm understanding, right, is that we're not saying 1, right? Like the elasticity is the tariff, right? And then you have to put the trade deficit on top of that, right? The top is the trade deficit itself. So at the very top, it is the exports versus imports.
Yep.
That's your deficit.
Yep.
Okay. And then underneath is the tariffs.
But
it's
it
the
says
calculation
the
of
price
tariffs.
elasticity of imports demand is set at 4. Okay. So it's saying E equals 4. And then I don't know what that freaking number is, but it's literally saying the other one is 0.25. So they're saying 4 times 0.25, which equals 1, is the trade tariffs. And they're using that for all the countries. And if you plug in the numbers, that's exactly what comes up. So if you plug in our trade deficit with all these countries and divided by 2, that's the tariff we're putting on people. It has nothing to do with their VAT tax. It has nothing to do with their tariff rate on us. And that's why it's totally not based on reality whatsoever.
Here's what what you don't understand, right? So at the very second paragraph, it says recent evidence suggests that the elasticity is near 2, right? But you haven't calculated the elasticity. You're just throwing 2 in there.
They were just throwing 2 in there. Yes.
Yeah, that's
okay,
what they're. This is them.
But that's not what it actually is currently, right? Because you haven't evaluated what the actual elasticity of the imports is.
Okay, so the elasticity of import prices with respect to tariffs, that symbol is 0.25. So it's really kind of silly.
But they're going off of quote unquote recent evidence suggests, right? But it's suggestive, not an objective, right?
This is the formula they use to put those numbers. This is why it's
important to actually put in the real numbers and the real data and the real price elasticity, because you're taking a guess of what you think it actually is without objectively putting in the actual data.
Okay, Millie,
I agree. It is important.
Okay, so that's what's got me all like fucking tripped up here because we're not actually like a suggestive is not an objective, right? This isn't objective math. They're just gauging it and taking a guess at what it is based off of recent history, right? But a lot has changed. You can
So that's
agree,
what
right?
they are doing. That's what the Trump administration did. They just put 0.4 and 0.25 and came up with 1 for every single country, which makes absolutely no sense. And I think you can agree if that's the case, and we could go and we could look at the trade deficit with every single country, and that's exactly how they came up with their tariff rates on that chart, which is absurd. And I think we can all agree on that.
I think it's absurd. I think it's not okay to go off a subjective versus an objective when it comes to math. Yeah.
All right.
When you do math, are you doing math off of a subjective number or an actual number?
Okay. So I am at, again, the USTR.gov. We've got here the trade deficit trade summary with the People's Republic of China. Would you accept that this is a valid source?
I can't accept that.
Trade deficit?
Yeah.
The trade deficit with China is 143.5 billion.
Okay, awesome.
That we're doing in exports.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, we can do this together. 143.5. All right, and then 439 is, I believe, the imports. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's 438.9, but I mean it's close enough. Putting the trade deficit total at 295.
All right, 295. All right, and then just for you, we're gonna put in those super fancy elasticities, yeah? All right, over here, I am going to write the exact same thing, but different. I'm going to do 143.
Can you go back to the equation?
Yeah, sorry, I can rewrite it. I just have...
So, no, the underneath part.
295?
Yeah, so on the left-hand side, right? You're still going off of a subjective number because you haven't even calculated the elasticity, yeah?
Yep. Okay. Trust me, we're going to get there at the very end. I promise.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. So 143.5, 439. All right. Over here, I'm going to write the exact same thing. But I'm going to pretend like this isn't even here because it's equals to 1. Yeah. 295. All right. Do a quick bit of math.
3 hours later.
All right. You can do this on your phone calculator if you want to double check me.
So I'll just talk for a second. Well, someone already did this. They graphed out this exact equation, and it was a straight line. So all the numbers were exactly related to this equation. So they didn't go through with each person and do their individual tariffs or VAT rates at all.
After this, you also have to calculate the currency.
Yeah, so they should have done all that.
Okay.
They should have calculated the VAT, the currency manipulation, blah, blah,
Correct.
blah. But they didn't.
They did. They did.
Well, then it wouldn't be a straight line.
Do you want to see it in the proclamation? He did. And you guys are leaving all of that out.
What do you mean, see it in the proclamation?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Hold on.
Okay,
hold on.
you're talking about the
grab you the
multiple page
proclamation.
proclamation. I understand what you're saying.
All right. I was crashing out here.
Oh my God! Senator!
I was crashing out here. Millie, you made me write this wrong, dude.
And make you do anything.
You are my right-hand man on this, and you were supposed to double-check me that I was writing it all right, and I wasn't putting any of my liberal lies in there.
I'm not watching half the shit you're doing because you still haven't put in the actual accurate price elasticity.
Damn!
My gosh, we have a perfectly good audience here, and you're making me waste their time with this horrible math.
I think they're here for it, bro.
I'm here for it.
All right, here we go. The denominator is supposed to be the imports, not the trade deficit.
The top is supposed to be trade deficit. The underneath is supposed to be import elasticity and price elasticity on imports.
Yep, and then times what? The imports. All right. So apparently my calculator math isn't great here. Does anyone want to run this math for me?
2 hours later.
Crickets.
Thought you were good. I thought you had it on the top of your head.
I got it. I'm not doing this shit in my head. Are you fucking kidding me? All right, here we go. All right. It equals 0.67. All right. Can you agree, Millie, that I've included those elasticity terms right here?
So MI is supposed to be the pass-through from tariffs to import prices.
All right. So if you calculate this both ways, it equals 0.67, yeah? If I calculate it over here where I only look at the imports and the exports, right? It's the same.
They're the same picture.
All right.
You have to add the VAT, and then you have to add the currency.
Okay. And yeah, and so,
Okay.
so this is for China, right? This is for China? 0.67?
Now you have to add the VAT, and now you have to add the currency.
Think that. Here we go.
You would think so.
Well, read the actual chart. Scroll over a little bit.
All
Hold
right,
on.
so we have
Go a little bit further to the right. A little bit further to the right. Okay, yeah. Zoom in right there, at the very bottom in the small text.
That's what
Wait,
we're
why
trying
don't
to
you turn
tell
off
you.
your camera?
Really,
Hang on. Zoom in. Zoom
we're
in.
trying to tell you they didn't actually do that. They just used
Hang
that
on.
equation.
Oh God,
They didn't actually do it. They're lying.
Hang on. So
Millie,
currency manipulation and trade barriers.
Okay, so if I have, it says including, right? If I have milk including chocolate, does it have milk in it? It 100% should have milk in it, right?
There's no milk.
What, in chocolate? Depends on if it's dark chocolate or milk chocolate.
If I serve you milk including chocolate, it's got to have some milk in it for that to be true, right?
It can. I mean, like, I don't understand. You're not including in the calculation currency manipulation or VAT taxes.
They didn't
You didn't
either.
put
Look
that
at that.
equation at all.
67%.
Number right there, Millie.
You got the same thing without using it because they didn't use it, Millie.
So you're telling us that it should be more?
I'm telling you that this column is
it should be higher then?
This column is a lie. This does not include tariffs charged to the U.S.
So where did Trump get those
So it
numbers
should be
from?
higher then, yeah?
We just went over where he got it from.
If I look at the trade deficit anywhere else here, that you get these same numbers.
He's done it!
So it has. So that's the whole point. It has nothing to do with the what he published as the tariffs have nothing to do with the actual tariff. It's just a trade deficit calculation, and then he's trying to put on tariffs based on a trade deficit. It makes no sense.
Tariffs are to correct a trade deficit in the first place.
So,
like, what do you think? What do you think tariffs
right?
are imposed for?
Okay, but if we're going to do a reciprocal tariff, that would be you put a 4% tariff on us. Let's put a 4% tariff on you.
That's not how the rest of the world has been tariffing us. They've been tariffing us more than what we've been tariffing them.
So if you want,
their bound rates are way higher than ours.
You're including VAT as a tariff, which doesn't make any sense. And I do understand the VAT. If you want to talk about the VAT, I can actually talk about the VAT.
No, I'm just talking about basic tariffs, like do the WTO. Like their bound rates and their MFN rates are much higher than ours.
So what's
and that's
the
without adding without adding VAT. That's just so specifically like China has a 10% bound rate and their MFN is all the way up to their bound rate, right? Australia is 9%.
So what's Europe? What's Europe's average tariff rate?
4.4 on average, and ours is about 3%.
So we're going to put a 20% extra tariff on them to be reciprocal tariff to their 4% or whatever. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean they're flooding our market with all of our goods without us flooding their market with our goods.
Well, we give them.
Don't you see that as an issue?
Why would you look at that value and call that value tariffs charged to the USA? Why would Trump tell the public that those numbers are the tariffs being charged to the USA when we have just established that is not true?
I don't know. Maybe he didn't get the math right or whatever. I'm not Donald Trump's economist. Whatever number that they put out, okay? However, what I am going to argue for is that we have multiple countries flooding our market with cheap products that outweigh the cost of what an American company within our country is selling their products for that are American made. We can all agree to this, right?
No, I agree. There's definitely a strategy to be said.
Okay, so that's a problem, right? And the way that we address that problem is through tariffs.
It's a benefit, depending on who you are.
How is it a benefit? Or our companies aren't going to do well in the long term. Have you not seen what BYD is doing?
Well, yeah, goods aren't the only things we sell, right? We sell services. We have online services we sell to people.
How many countries are purchasing our quote unquote services?
Google,
our consumers are purchasing our services more than anything else. Are you paying for Google?
AI? Yeah.
Do you pay for Google?
I do, personally, yeah.
How do you pay for Google? The internet is free.
No, I have Google Workspace. I use it
or like
for
Google
my
One. You have Google Storage.
You're talking about like its actual Office network.
Yeah, I use Google Workspace.
Okay, so like Google Docs is free. You don't have to pay for Google Docs. You don't have to pay for Google's version of SL.
If you're a company,
yeah, but okay, can you tell me the metric of which these countries are purchasing Google Workspace for?
I mean, no, I can't, but I know that.
Like, tell me what how much Vietnam is using Google Workspace.
Yeah, so I've said my piece. Los, thank you very much for humoring me and letting me inflict math on your audience. Millie, thanks for being a great help with doing all that math.
No problem. I mean, like, algebra and all of that is not my strong suit. I more study like the parameters of economics. Like, I won't sit up here and pretend to be a mathematician. I'll never say that I am. But at the end of the day, I think this is more than just a simplistic view. And I think that tariffs are needed if our economy is going to survive long term against China. I mean, China's on a 15-year plan. If we don't get it together, we're going to be completely washed out by other markets.
All right. Listen, hear me out. I'm going to do a little commercial break.
And now a word from our sponsor.
We've been on tariffs. We did some math. We did some pretty civil debating for the most part. I'm pretty proud of you guys. Now I'm going to advocate for a topic change, but I'll give the audience the choice of that and the panel. I got one spot for the blue team. If you want to be part of the fairest political panel on this entire fucking app, you're welcome, because echo chambers are boring. You got to be following me. And if there's like 10 people requesting up right now, I would suggest gifting the host, because it helps him pay attention to you more when selecting who he's going to bring up to the fairest political panel on the fucking internet. Yes, sir. What happened, Ether Rich?
Do you want to give someone my spot for a minute?
No, you're my team captain. Why the fuck would I want to do that? I'll drop the rest of the team before I drop you. Are you crazy? All right. Let's see who we have here. We'll bring in Juke. If I remember, I remember him. I'm not sure. Eat the Rich. Do you like Juke? Do we kick him? What do we do?
I think Juke was alright. He had a lot to say in the comments.
All right. Your captain says you could stay.
Can I stay?
No.
That's fair with me. You guys want to gift me? I got that bird goal up there. The birds around my head, they look kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? I see all the other stupid shit people get gifted for on this app. I think the one Cuban kid in Miami trying to bring the country together because y'all can't agree on nothing probably deserves it. Or not. You can go fuck yourself. I don't care. I'm not an expert. I'm just some guy on TikTok. I leave the math to the scientists, like 42 lab coat. 42 squirrels in a lab coat. That name is so funny. What's up, Juke?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. You haven't had a new topic you would like to inquire about? Something maybe, I don't know. I mean, a lot to say. I feel like you're gonna comment on what we were just talking about. If you want.
Well, real quick.
Well, then there we go.
Millie, I just want to say you're welcome for helping you understand the difference between subjective and whatever else you said. I can't even remember now.
What are you talking about, bro?
Man, what the fuck is you talking about?
What the fuck was that? You're saying you're welcome for something you can't even explain?
No, because she said.
I said in the second paragraph when it said recent evidence suggests the elasticity is near 2 in the long run.
She did say yes. She did say
yes. I said that, bro.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
Saying suggestive instead of subjective. which those are two completely different things. But, you know, after I corrected in the comments, you started using the proper term. So I just thought that was interesting. But I'm just being annoying.
You're not that important, brother. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, whatever
Jake,
that got you
bro,
was.
relax.
Whatever makes you sleep at night.
Jake, you're my local.
I literally read the second paragraph and told them that the price elasticity wasn't accurate because they're suggesting that the elasticity is near 2%. Near 2 in the long run. But estimates of the elasticity varies, right? So we don't have the actual sum of elasticity. You're just plugging in a number that you think could be it.
Plug it.
I mean, that's what suggestive means.
Don't be plugging now.
The way that you were using it, objective means that it's like the truth. There's facts behind it, and that's what he was trying to say is that you can't change. Like the equation is literally the truth. It can't be changed. It's going to be the same every time. It was fluffed up by Trump in order to make it seem like he knows what he's talking about, but he never does. And that's why there's literal people saying that when you plug it into ChatGPT, you ask it look up the articles about ChatGPT and how they're accusing Trump now of his admin using ChatGPT to fucking come up with that.
Well, the trade representative laid out the formulation the way it's laid out, right? And then like basically
that was the
you
math
guys just
doing.
chopped up the formula, right? So if it really is that way, then why would they just add two numbers that are not needed? Why wouldn't they just do the number and the ratio that 42 had just done?
Because they try to embellish things to make themselves look better at things. I mean, look at who.
No, this isn't Donald Trump. This is the trade representative.
Yeah, it's at the behest of him, though. Am I wrong or no?
No. No. This trade representative has been around for a long period of time, since like 2014. Like,
okay, so they're not a conservative.
This is just like a branch of the government, like the FBI or like the like Interior Department of Interior and shit like that.
All these interior governments that were appointed by the president.
Well, like
you know who the leader of the FBI is right now?
Yeah, so this on the trade representative wasn't posted by the Trump administration. This is just the trade representative's like.
Oh, come on now. You guys blame every part of the Biden government.
This isn't. Okay, so can you show me? I didn't blame this on Biden. This equation has likely been around for a long period of time. This wasn't an equation that Donald Trump made up.
He showed you Trump literally presenting it on his little board. Literally from that equation. So obviously he's looking at that equation and those are people that he trusts.
Because that's the equation that the trade representative laid out.
Okay,
tell me, hang on, can you tell me where Donald Trump appointed the trade representative?
I don't know. I just know that
where did Donald Trump appoint the trade representative?
If you're going to posit the claim that this is all Trump's doing, you have to know that he appointed this guy. Because otherwise you're just guessing.
It doesn't matter.
I didn't know. You're the one guessing.
Order. This is his executive order. He's basing his executive order, all these tariffs, all these huge record-breaking tariffs bring us back to the 1910s era.
His name
tariff based on these numbers.
Wait. His name.
What I'm saying is you can't.
I got you. Wait. Jake, let me finish.
That was in the middle. Okay. All
right.
Hold
on. Wait a minute. No, let Jake finish talking. Let Jake finish talking.
Well, he asked me a question. I said,
I asked you 0 questions, brother.
Yeah. No, you said. I said.
Let him finish talking, and then after you'll get a chance, man. Please.
Order in the court.
See, it's the ego. If you're going to say that this is all his doing, then you have to be able to tell me that he appointed this guy who provided the calculation. Because otherwise, you're just guessing that he did because you want to, right? That's what we're trying to say.
No, I asked you if he appointed somebody new to the trade representative.
Let me respond. His name is Robert Lighthizer, and yes, Trump did appoint him. Look it up. You can Google it. Simple Google search.
Yeah, Millie, that what I just said was not directed at you, Millie. We're saying the same thing. Just letting you.
Trump did appoint him, just like I said.
And what was his name?
And it's.
I just looked it up to search because I didn't know what his name was. Because it doesn't.
Robert Lighthizer.
They're all.
But it doesn't really matter.
I'm trying to understand, like the reference of where they got this from has been around for a long period of time.
It's someone that
So,
Trump
like,
appointed. I don't know how you're saying that.
this isn't. Hold on. Did you even read the references at the bottom of the page? Can I get the big
No.
box? Okay,
You
so like
Moscow,
this is where they get all the references. So like 2023, 2006, 2024,
Yeah, that's
2014.
Yeah, that's where they found the number 4 and 0.25. That's why it never changes, those two numbers, which equals 1, which again just equates to them fluffing it up to make it sound like they're fucking smart. You know, a lot of people
Okay,
like,
but
"You know how to do 4 times 0.25." Like,
they didn't pull this out. Bro, it's 2 in the fucking morning, bro. Like if
Yes,
you're
bro,
asking me to
that's a
fucking
third
like
grade
think
math
through a bunch
question.
of
Wait.
Bro, I
So
don't
Juke and the
care.
left, you
Like
guys just no
if you
longer.
wanna sit there and say that you got you on me at 2 a.m., that I'm fine with that. I
No,
don't
it
give a
wasn't me.
shit.
It wasn't me. I was just happy that you acknowledged pretty much being wrong. That was the only thing I was happy about. Because a lot of
Bro,
people
I
don't do
don't know how many times that you've heard me on panels. I absolutely acknowledge when I was wrong. I was literally on this panel not even like 30 minutes ago when Eat the Rich brought up the EAE, and I admitted that I had looked at the Alien Act instead of Alien Enemies Act. Like, I don't. Where have you been? I absolutely fucking do admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah,
here.
she doesn't know
Like
what she's on. I have no idea the fuck she
that's just
does.
fucking stupid.
Juke.
Well, how is that
It might
stupid to
be.
assume? Would you admit that most
Hey,
Trump
Juke, just lay
supporters
off of that. I have to know what it is.
Because I do admit when I'm wrong, bro.
Yeah, you're
It's not like a
Like,
rub it in moment.
you're the 1% of Trump supporters.
Yeah,
So,
that's
I
that's
I have a
what he
question.
does. He just wants
Yeah.
to come up here and
So
fucking
talk
rub it in
about
my
it. Talk
face.
about
I
this
don't
he
care.
issue. I want to
he
talk
he
about tariffs.
requested up here to come start yelling at Millie for being wrong. That's all you wanted to do, Juke?
No,
That's all
I'm,
you
I'm down to have
provide
I'm
here?
down to have a meaningful conversation.
Okay, so but
That's
then
what I'm
do
saying.
that.
Bring up some points that like
Stop
you
with this weird
actually.
bullshit.
Hey,
It's like
I
your
would,
family.
I would like
Switch
to answer
topics.
Eat the
points.
Rich, what happened, bro? What's G? You
No,
fucking up, bro?
they're going back and forth, so they should switch topics probably.
All
I
right,
agree.
I
James
wanted to
Edwards.
bring up something
So
about
weird.
this trade stuff because I think it's ridiculous. So this is the part that I think is actually terrible. Trump's first tariffs, his first term on like iron and steel, he had to declare an emergency tariff, right? And the emergency was we need iron and steel production in America for our armed services. I think that was a stretch. His second tariffs now with Mexico and Canada, he brought up the rugs. What's his reason? What's his emergency declaration for these ones? Where he's bypassing Congress. Congress has the authority to pass tariffs. So how is he bypassing Congress's authority using emergency powers to pass tariffs on every single country? How does that work? Someone please explain it to me.
Way that Joe Biden bypassed the paying off of student loan debt. If
And
there's
you're
like a
okay with
loophole,
that?
we're allowed. Hey, if you guys can go pay off a bunch of student loans and debt that's owed to the American people without appropriating
Hey,
it
thank
through
you.
Congress, then fine. If there's a
Did we?
legal loophole that allows for it, then you guys set the standard for that.
So to be
So
clear,
if we have any questions, we might as well go at her because she knows everything till the moon and back about whatever we're talking about, except for the last thing because that 42 squirrels kind of cooked you on that one.
Okay, let's just.
And like I could definitely concede to that, and he made good
That's
points
why
and
you're a
valid
fucking
arguments.
real one, gang. G
Well,
shit.
yeah, he was right. The formula was one, and actually
You guys
Trump
understand how hard it
stated
is
that.
to do that on a? You know how many? I've been doing this shit for months, bro. It is, especially
Pretty
with 240 fucking people watching for his to say to for somebody to admit, yeah, I might have, he had me on that one. That takes character. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for character. I don't give a fuck about people that just want to come up here and sound right, bro. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I want character, bro. People who are willing to push the conversation forward and admit when they might have been wrong about something. If you can't do that, you don't got a space here.